First mover.
Thanks for putting on the right picture. I'll look at that.
Oh my gosh. Ron's on it.
Good job.
I know I saw it somewhere. I didn't think it was when I looked at it.
You just want to stay there? We'll do resolutions first.
I saw it.
You got a minute. Everybody stretched out? I know. That'd be nice. We'll see for second. There you go. You're over there. Are you over there?
It's good for the brain. Switch one.
Are you going to go to the I don't know. Get you out, Craig. Daughter will want to go, I know. Yeah. Are you missing Sharon? Oops, yeah. Like I said, DJ. Sorry. Good evening. Monday, November 26, 2018 Common Council meeting is now in session. Our invocation is by Rabbi Karen Kampanitz of Temple Bethel. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
As we gather together here this evening to conduct the business of the City of South Bend, let us rededicate ourselves to work together in unity and harmony to improve this particular region of Indiana that we all call home. With the individual gifts that each of us brings to this worthy endeavour, let us pledge to join hands to ensure that the City of South Bend is able to realise the abundant potential with which it is blessed. With that in mind, I offer this prayer for our country. God of holiness, we hear your message. Justice, justice shall you pursue. God of freedom, we hear your charge. Proclaim liberty throughout the land. Inspire us through your teachings and commandments to love and uphold our precious democracy. Let every citizen take responsibility for the rights and freedoms we cherish. Let each of us be an advocate for justice, an activist for liberty, a defender of dignity, and let us champion the values that make our nation a haven for the persecuted, a beacon of hope among the nations. May our actions reflect compassion for all people within our borders and abroad. May our leaders and officials embody the vision of our founders to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defence, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. We pray for all who serve our country with selfless devotion in peace and in war, from fields of battle to clinics and classrooms, from government to the grassroots, all those whose noble deeds and sacrifice benefit our nation and our world. We are grateful for the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that our founders ascribed to you, our Creator. We pray for the wisdom and moral strength that we may be guardians of these rights for ourselves and for the sake of all people, now and forever. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. If you would, please turn your cell phones to silent. Miss Fowler, would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Preston, excused. Councilmember McBride.
Present.
Councilmember Brooks.
Here.
Councilmember Chester.
Here.
Vice President Davis.
Present.
Councilmember Gordy.
Here.
Councilmember Burley.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Present.
President Scott.
Present.
8 present.
Thank you. Report on subcommittee minutes, please.
To the Common Council of the City of South Bend. The subcommittee has inspected the minutes of the November 12, 2018 meeting of the council and found them to be correct. Therefore, we recommend the same be approved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. There's no special business. I do want to make one announcement, actually two announcements. We will not have a council meeting on December 24th for obvious reasons. And if you're here for Bill 6118 regarding the storm water utility rates, that is continued to 12/10. There's a possibility there might be a special committee meeting between next week regarding the stormwater utility rate. So I just want to make sure everybody is clear that 6118 has been continued. From that, we have no reports to city offices. Laura O'Sullivan is in the crowd. Thank you, Laura, representing the mayor's office. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and move resolutions to the top of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. With that, we will move to item number 9 on the agenda, resolutions. Ms. Fowler, would you please read 1869?
1869, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving a petition for the Area Board of Zoning Appeals for property located at 1320 Miami Street.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Yeah, the
zoning and... Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, committee report.
zoning and annexation committee met this afternoon, and we bring this bill to you with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Vice President Davis. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Angela Smith from the Area Planning Commission with offices located on the 11th floor of this building. Before you this evening is a petition to request a special exception for a bar or tavern at 1320 Miami Street. It was originally opened as a coffee bar or coffee house and later had the demand or demand for a change to a full scale, what we would call bar under our definition of zoning. I've included a zoning map here. You can see the property highlighted in red. It's along Miami Corridor. It's zoned MU mixed use, which allows for a restaurant, coffee house, and the bar by special exception. The properties on either side across the street and north and south are either mixed use or light industrial. As you go down to the next block south, you get into some multifamily, and then it immediately goes back into commercial uses. So the majority of Miami along the street is actually mixed use. You do have some single-family residential behind the alley in the back where the residential buffer would kick in. However, the petitioner under previous variances had, through the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, got special approval to allow for their parking to be there off the alley. So they do have parking at the rear of the existing building. There aren't any plans to make any changes to the structure, just the use with inside the structure. The petitioner is here to answer any questions. This comes to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a favorable recommendation.
Is there any questions for the presenter at this time? No. Would the petitioner please come forward? Please state your name and address and just tell us briefly about the project.
My name is Robert Smith. I'm the owner of the Witch's Brew at 1320 Miami Street, South Bend, Indiana. Like Angela said, we started off as a coffee shop, restaurant, and we've kind of morphed more into a pub situation. We're selling more beer and wine now than what we were before, so that's why we did a special exception use. We started the project 4 years ago. There's been many updates with the building. We had to meet all the ADA requirements, the wiring, the plumbing, the heating, all had to be changed. We had a variance in 2017 in the spring, so we had to pave the rest of the parking lot and close the dumpster, have an ADA parking spot. We put all new floors in it, all new ADA bathrooms, and we put a lot into it. But we're kind of, like I said, moved more into serving more beer and wine than coffee, so that's why we need this special exception.
Any questions from council? I have a couple. Could you just tell us what the establishment's like? You kind of explain the type. It's not a pool hall. It's not a VFW type establishment.
It's kind of there's 3 rooms when you walk in, and there's one room that has the bar in it, and it's kind of, it's a theme place. it's just really kind of unique. It's not a, I don't know, rough and tumble kind of a place. And we get a lot of ladies that come in there from, I don't know, ages from 30 to upwards of 70-some years old. We had a group in there that they all dressed up as witches and stuff and had a lot of fun around Halloween. We serve a lot of champagne drinks. We just have a beer and wine license. We don't have draft beer or anything like that. We do serve coffee and cappuccino and espresso and mochas, and we have a small food menu.
Okay. In your hours and capacity?
The capacity is 28 seating capacity. The bar only has 6 seats at it, so it's really just very not that big a part of the building. And then, what was the other question? Sorry.
Your hours.
Oh, I'm sorry. 5 to 11,
Okay.
Tuesday through Saturday.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from council? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. We'll open up the public. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor of 1869, please come to the podium. Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak against 1869, please come to the podium. Seeing none, turn it back to council.
Motion for adoption.
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Testa?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon?
Aye.
Councilmember Curley,
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Good luck. Ms. Fowler, 1870, please. $70.
1870, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, renewing and extending the terms of the South Bend Urban Enterprise Zone.
Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, Community Investment Fund is scored favorably.
Thank you. Presenter.
Yes. Pam Meyer, Director of Neighborhood Development for the Department of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor of this building. And also in that position, I serve as Director of the Enterprise Association and manage the Enterprise Zone program. The resolution before you is based on new legislation that was effective earlier this year that allows any city with an enterprise zone to have their local fiscal body renew and extend that zone for a final 5-year period. The current zone that we have expires 12/31/2018. This 5-year extension would allow it to extend to 12/31/2023. The Enterprise Zone program was created in the 80s. It is basically a business incentive reinvestment program for distressed areas around the state. South Bend was one of the first cities in the state of Indiana to receive an Enterprise Zone. We had one successful one that lasted for 20 years. We were then allowed to apply for the second one, which is the current one we have. This is the last and final extension that we can have. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I do have the answer for Councilwoman Broden, who had asked about the Sample Street Business Complex and the percentage of occupancy. The last report we got as of 11/16 of this year, we are close to 75%, just shy of 75%. We have 125 units, 93 of those were occupied. I would say historically, that is a very significant and good percentage for the complex.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions from council?
Yeah.
Oliver Davis.
Once this program is over, you said in 5 years, what happens to those, to the tenants and to the ownership of everything? Could you explain that?
Certainly. All we're talking about today in terms of this extension is the zone program. That is the tax benefits available through the state of Indiana for any business located within that geography called the Enterprise Zone.
Mm-hmm.
The association, which is the governing body of an Enterprise Zone, will still be in place. It is a nonprofit, and it will still manage, own, and operate that facility until or unless it's sold to a different party.
So the association will still be in place?
That's correct.
It just will, what will not be in place then, clearly?
The opportunity for businesses to take advantage of the tax benefits that are currently
For those who've
available.
already taken it, and then that place will still be considered, so that's, okay, I'm at peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. At this time, we'll open it up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1870, please come to the podium. Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak against 1870, please come to the podium. Turn it back to council.
Motion for adoption?
Second. Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Broden?
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka?
Aye.
Vice President Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Gordon?
Aye.
Councilmember Furley?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember McBride?
Aye.
President Scott?
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 1871, please.
1871, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, approving and authorizing the execution and delivery of a memorandum of understanding regarding the St. Joseph County Library proposed project.
Thank you. Can I entertain a motion to accept the sub?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Is there a committee report?
Yes, community investment sends us forward favorably.
Thank you. Is there a presenter?
Good evening, Council. James Mueller, Executive Director of Community Investment, with offices on the 14th floor of this building. We bring tonight, after the discussions over the past few weeks of an exciting project in downtown with the partnership with the St. Joseph County Public Library and St. Joseph County Community Foundation. And tonight we'll focus more on the financing pieces and the action items before you, and then touch upon a summary of some of our previous discussions. So we're looking at what the project is, what the agreement and partnership looks like, what the city's financial position and why we're well within our means to make this exciting project happen, and some of the community impacts that we hope to achieve should council approve this. First, this is a partnership, as mentioned, with two other entities with the city, and the city includes the Civil City and the Redevelopment Commission. And this is not as common for all of these types of entities to come together and work on a project like this. The overall project cost between the renovation of the existing building and the proposed new community education center is between $36 and $38 million. The community education center itself is looking to be about a 38,000 square foot facility with an auditorium, meeting office, and new programming space. And that component of the 36 to 38 million is estimated to be between 18 and 20 million dollars of construction cost. So to make this project happen, it's these three entities coming together and trying to figure out how do we get this across the finish line. The city obligations in the memorandum of understanding before you is $4 million of net proceeds from River West TIF funds, and this is for the new facility, the Community Education Center project, not the existing library facility. Also, the city is obligated to get necessary approvals by all bodies by December 2018, but these bonds are not anticipated to be issued for 3 years. And the MOU sets out a deadline of the first quarter of 2022, but we anticipate sometime in the latter half of 2021. The public library's obligations are $20 million of bond proceeds that go toward the entire project. Roughly $5 million of those will go to the Community Education Center. The balance would go to the existing facilities. And then they also have contemplated $2 million of furnishings for the library. They're also, as the lead implementer of this project, they're required to consult with us on design and plans initially, and have made a commitment to maintaining a main entrance, or entrance on Main Street. And as you recall, there was a proposal a year or so ago that would have removed that as part of the renovation plan. And with all the investment with smart streets and the vibrancy along that corridor, it was the wrong time to be taking the entrance off the main street, and we're happy that the library agrees, and this project will maintain that entrance. And finally, the library will consent to developing their parking lot to the south of the existing building if certain criteria are met. mainly that the parking, all their parking is maintained within that block, and it doesn't conflict with any mission, with the mission of the library or its activities. Finally, the Community Foundation has agreed to fund $10 million of the Community Education Center project, and also finance up to $4 million for the city contribution in the interim while construction is underway and before the city EDC TIF bond is issued in roughly 3 years. In terms of where we are as a city with that, this was presented in September as part of the budget process by our Admin and Finance Department, showing historic levels of debt issuance by different councils. And as you can see, we're well within the norms there. And also, these are nominal dollars, not inflation, not real dollars or adjusted by inflation. So if you were to do that, this would actually be skewed even more favorably to where we are today. Within the funding source itself, the River West obligations, there are a number that are ending before 2025. And you can see that on this chart. These include the police and fire stations, Century Center project, the TJX building, the Central Services building over there on Sample, and some remediation that was done over on Prairie Avenue. And so when we look at the next graph, the orange is what's estimated to be the new annual debt service obligations from the issuance of this bond. And as you can see, it's well within our means compared to current levels and anticipated needs in the coming 3 to 4 years. The orange, it's important to note, is based off of a UMBA's analysis of a 15-year term bond at an interest rate 100 basis points above today. We don't know what the interest rates will be in 3 years, but we think that's a reasonable assumption. Depending what the interest rates are and what the city obligations and finances look like, we might envision a shorter term bond as well. We just won't know that exactly until we're getting ready to do that. And I will mention on the last slide that the two obligations that were not listed that don't end until the 2030s are the recent Parks TIF bond that was approved and the Smart Streets that was used to extend the life of the River West development area. In terms of community impacts, the South Bend Regional Chamber has used their plan modeling to find that the construction phase, this level of investment, would generate 65 direct jobs, 150 indirect and induced jobs, and direct, indirect, and induced economic output of $64 million. In the operations phase, this comes from the public library's projections. They're anticipating potentially 5 to 10 jobs, increased foot traffic in southeast downtown. A lot of the other quadrants, of downtown, have seen a lot of activity and more attractions, and this is one that hasn't. And so, bringing people here is going to be a good anchor for that part of town and hopefully drive further development in the coming years. And then finally, just the additional resources that this space provides, as it's called, the Community Education Project. There's a lot of additional programming that we anticipate that will reap a lot of benefits for our residents. And I'll turn it over to Deb Shuda of the library to give some more talk about programming and impact.
Okay. Do we have a presentation?
Is it a PDF?
Yep, there's the PDF. I'm Deborah Fuda, Executive Director of the St. Joseph County Public Library, 304 South Main Street. I just wanted to start by talking about the changing role of the library. As an economic development, we'll see if we've got here we go. As an economic development agent, we address literacy, technology skills, small business development, and quality of life. And as more people live and work in downtown, it's essential to have those destinations that enhance a sense of place in the community. We offer small business support that helps entrepreneurs create business plans and navigate government regulations and online forms. As a digital literacy provider and trainer, we're helping people find and use digital content, and our community uses our connectivity to help them live their lives. As a learning center for a lifetime, we're involved in everything from helping parents understand how to interact with their young children to providing training, classes, and information programs. Our partnership with the School Corporation for High School Equivalency students means those folks are in our facility every day, using us as a classroom and a resource. Sometimes we hear that people don't use the library anymore, and so I just wanted to give you a snapshot of our 2017 numbers. We have 114,000 people with an SJCPL library card, and of those, 68,000 people live in the city. It's about two-thirds of the population. Our fast Wi-Fi means more digital inclusion in the community, and it was used 423,000 times in 2017. Other visitors logged 178,000 computer hours on one of our pieces of equipment. And we offer 1,270 programs and 3,200 groups in the library. It doesn't matter where somebody lives in the city. There are residents in every district who are using Main Library. This is a snapshot that we took for the month of July in town. And so we have it divided by districts, and you can see that no matter where you live, no matter what district we're talking about, there are people using Main. This slide is also telling us that people move around. They might stop by a branch, but they're also using Main Library. Main serves a different purpose than our branches because of the breadth of the collection and the ability to offer programs like Science Alive, where maybe 4,000 people come to the library on a given day. And the current Main Library, built in 1960, renovated in 1989, was never designed to host the programs, the events, the collaborative work that take place today. In 2007, we made the decision to invest $15 million in the neighborhoods. We renovated and added square feet to 4 branch libraries and built 2 new ones. And we did this with the intent to return to a Main Library project in 2019 when that bond was repaid and reinvest in our flagship location. We spent a lot of 2017 gathering community input with interviews, focus groups, surveys, stakeholder meetings. And from all of the data that we got, we found that the community wanted an inviting and intuitive building. They wanted areas for activity and quiet study. And we've often said during these presentations that we are not quiet anymore, and we love that. We love being a hub of activity, but we need to recapture the quiet spaces that we've had as well. We've long wanted an outdoor space to serve as a commons and also to do programming. People wanted engaging spaces for young children and teens and accessible meeting rooms of different sizes, so we need the flexibility. In 2018, in January, we hired Robert A.M. Stern to work on a master plan concept. This was a partnership between the city, the Community Foundation, and the library. And we chose RAMSA because they had outstanding experience in designing libraries and a number of successful projects behind them. So just a few concept ideas when we're talking about imagining what it could be. The first one we wanted to show you was children's spaces. Our children's space needs to double, and what you see here is a toddler area in the large photo with lots of things to do. It's very colorful. It's safe because you have that wall there, and there's room for parents to talk to each other. We found that parents like to come together at the library. It's a way to meet friends. It's a way to connect with each other. For teens, our libraries take over after school when the day is done to help them complete their homework. And teens might look like adults, but they're a vulnerable population, and we're that step toward independence in a safe space. So we'd love to throw a lot of technology at the teens, but also some creative space and just space to hang out. Our community living room, our commons, is the place for people from all walks of life, from all economic categories to come together. We provide ways to combat social isolation through culture and companionship. And then our meeting rooms. We do meetings, training, and classes of all kinds. This is going to give us the opportunity to expand those offerings for the public. In workforce development, we help with resume writing, online applications, and other tech help, and we offer online course certification that a lot of people take advantage of. We're constantly helping people how to understand and use the devices that they have, and we're being asked to host meetings for business groups, clubs, and civic organizations. And finally, with our courtyard, we hope to give the community access to secure outdoor space for programs and events. In June of this year, we hosted 800 people in parking lot for the summer reading kickoff. And last year, when we had the Eclipse party, there were 500 people. It's great to have those people, but it's parking lot, and it's not really safe for young kids who are darting in and out of there. This would be enclosed. And the large photo you're looking at is Nashville Public Library's courtyard, where they host all kinds of events, including weddings. This is set up for a wedding right now. So here's the concept, which I believe you've seen before. And you see the existing library, which will undergo a complete renovation that doubles the children's space, adds real teen space, study rooms, and quiet, along with the liveliness. The new space that you're going to see fronting Main Street is the Community Learning Center. It's going to activate that whole block on Main Street and allow us to offer events before and after hours. The auditorium is on the back, and that auditorium will have the capability for lectures, presentations, candidate forums, films, and performances. And again, we'll be able to offer those in between hours. We have tech space coming in along Wayne Street, so we're going to activate that part of the block as well. That's going to be connected to the library, but again, with its own entrance, so we can offer those programs before and after hours. And a small cafe space. Everybody wanted to eat in the library, so we'll have a cafe along Wayne Street.
Cool.
Because we're retiring our current bond, I think it's important to mention that as James mentioned, we have $5 million approved already by the County Council. We'll be asking for another $15 million. This will not raise the tax rate above 2017 levels because we're retiring that bond. So it's going to be a pass-through and an even swap. On a more personal note, I wanted to tell you that I do what I do, at least in part, because the bookmobile saved me when I was a kid. My father was a World War II vet. He served with Patton. He liberated a concentration camp, and he came back with what we now know as PTSD. And so I never knew what kind of a father I'd find on any given day. But my mother loved to read, and she read to all four of us, my three brothers and me. And when she found there would be a bookmobile coming to town, we all went, and we got library cards. I checked out as many books as they'd let me. I went every 2 weeks when the bookmobile came to town. And it was a way to learn about outside worlds. And there was Misty of Chincoteague and Patty Woodlawn and a host of others. And it was a way to take myself away from the turmoil that was at home. That's my story, but it's just one story. And there are thousands and thousands of stories in our community. We hear them every day from ways that we've helped people. You can be any age and know that there's always something going on at the library for you. We're always there. We're always free. And our whole mission is to improve people's lives. That's why we exist. We do it through education, learning, technology, and bringing people together. And we do it through the power of words. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
We have comments later, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I have a
Thank
comment.
you. Okay. At this time, we'll open up to the public. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of 1870, please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and address. Kevin Froelich will time you somehow, some way.
My name is Robert Cornish. I live at 130 South Taylor Street here in South Bend. And I am currently, as a student, undertaking HSE classes at the St. Joe County Public Library. It has been 28 years since the renovation has happened at the library, and in that time, the city expanded, new projects became available, the Smart Streets program, decrease downtown foot traffic, and the library has not been able to keep up, in a sense, to the growing needs of our community. This expansion will allow people like myself who are seeking to complete an education as well as to complete a higher education through college or universities by giving us the tools that is necessary for us. Other people in the community who are seeking additional employment, even a different line of employment, who have limited resources to computers and internet, can also use the library as well. I have read up on the proposed moving of the children and the teen section from the third floor of the library down to the main first floor. And that, to me, is important because sometimes kids can be very exuberant, especially when going to the library, when they can meet with their friends. They have a chance to learn new ideas, experiment, study. And it just makes it easier on families as well as any guardianship or caregivers in the time. Next week, I will actually be taking my HSE test, and this suspension is just what's best for the community for it to continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
My name is Samuel Brown. I live at 222 East Navarre Street in the city of South Bend. Also, I have a watchdog group called Citizen United for a Better Government. I'm not going to make a long, boring speech about this. I really feel this is a great idea to expand our library and make it as best we can, because our city is expanding. We're doing a lot of things in South Bend, and we should have a first-class library that's going to serve all of us. You know, I mean, this is a no-brainer. So I hope that everybody feels like I do. Let's get this done.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead. You can line up if you want.
Good evening. My name is Cy Barker. I live at 15026 Stransbury Court in Granger, Indiana, and I'm here in support of the library project. I'm a member of 100 Black Bend of Greater South Bend, and we frequently had our education committee meetings at the library. The reason we met at the library downtown because our members lived in different parts of the city, and it provided a good central location. But also the new facility will provide a place that will be safe and inviting for the youth that we mentor, and also for tutoring. And also will give them a place to come after school and during the summer. And then finally, personally, I have grandchildren, a 6-year-old granddaughter and a 4-year-old grandson, and they live out of the country, but they come and they spend the summer with us, with their grandmothers here, and their favorite place to go is to the library. And so they look forward every week. We take them to an alley to the library, and they load up with the books, and it's something they can't do where they live overseas. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Ann Rosen. I live at 1219 Weaver Avenue in South Bend, and I thought we only had 2 minutes, so I worked really hard to get this short.
You can repeat it.
First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about my favorite topic, the library and the new project. I'm speaking to you as a former co-director of the Family Connection of St. Joseph County. Our mission is to improve early childhood education in St. Joseph County. As part of that, we provide excellent professional development to early childhood educators at no cost. Access to free meeting rooms is essential to enable us to continue with this offering of free development. And as one of the more than 3,000 groups that used the library in 2017, we use the meeting rooms too, and I can tell you they are at a premium, and there are frequently times when there isn't a room available. The proposed community education center would increase the number and flexibility of meeting spaces. We need flexibility because sometimes we'll have a presentation for up to 50 people and sometimes as few as 10. So that being able to use different size rooms is important. Also, we could have a large presentation and then have people take breakouts to do more interactive discussion. The work of early childhood may not seem stressful to some of you, but it is very stressful, and early childhood teachers and directors make very little money. So imagine if, instead of being in the basement where we meet now, meeting rooms actually had natural light, a view of trees, a view of the sky. During breaks, people could go outside and walk in the beautifully landscaped courtyard. And studies, actually, repeated studies are showing that this is an important part of mental health, that it lowers stress levels and enables learning. So for everybody who's in the library, that chance to go outside and spend some time outside can make a real difference in their lives. There's a library branch where we go sometimes for trainings, and it's in a charming building. There's a garden outside, there are windows, there's light. I think the patrons and the groups that use the main library should have that same experience of beauty. I will tell you also, I love the main library, but sometimes if I need to work, I will go to a different branch because I love to be able to walk outside, in the middle of what I'm doing. So I'd really rather come here. Over the past 25 or 30 years, I've seen the building and the functions of the main library evolve, but some things haven't changed. For one thing, our library leadership has always listened to the community. Deb Fuda talked about the redoing of the branches. Family Connection at that time did the focus groups for each one of those branches and wrote up what people had said and turned it in. And I can tell you, when you go to those branches and you see what's there, you are seeing what those people said. It was remarkable to me, because sometimes you do focus groups and they really pay no attention. But here it was like brought to reality. So I'm confident that the things that people in our community said they wanted in a library, that's what we'll have. Secondly, our library leadership has been visionary for at least as long as I've known the library. For example, it was either the first or one of the first to provide internet access to its patrons. And Deb Fuda and her staff continue that tradition. But being on the cutting edge requires adaptability, not just of people, but of spaces. The community center and the renovation will be a flexible space designed to continue to meet our community's needs for decades to come. I also believe that it'll be the centerpiece, the crown jewel of the current city revitalization.
Thank you.
Good evening. Rose Meisner, Community Foundation, 225 West Jefferson. I'm delighted, I'm excited to be standing here today because this is another step in the journey of a conversation that's been going on for over 2 years. To underscore something that Ann just said, one of the things that I know, I've been with the Community Foundation for 26 years. I've worked with all manner of organizations across all manner of causes. And I like to think that Community Foundation has an eye for talent. And one thing I will tell you that I've known for most of those 26 years is that we have one of the finest library systems in the country. And the idea, the conversation that we sought out with Deb and the city over the last couple of years is, what if this building reflected all that you're capable of bringing to our community? What if you weren't fitting all of what you do into this building, but rather the building expressed everything that you can, that you're doing now and that could do in the future? So this would be the most remarkable partnership, the most optimistic, beautiful statement a city could make about itself at this point in time. We've never needed a downtown branch of the public library more than we need right now. I challenge anybody to name any other space in the entire community that brings people from every race, every class, every age together for all of the best reasons, which is what our library does. And I hope that you'll support this vision and that we'll all be part of the story of the next chapter of the St. Joe County Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Name and address, please.
Thank you, members of the Common Council. My name is Mary Jan Hedman. I'm the CEO of St. Joe Valley Metronet at 130 South Main Street. I'm speaking to you this evening in support of the new Community Education Center project. As the name implies, this is a center for the community and for education. It's also a center for connecting. It's a center where people can connect with other people as well as people connecting with the outside world via the internet. It may be hard for us to imagine a day without the internet, but many people in our community do not have the luxury of internet connectivity. Today, St. Joseph County Public Library does a phenomenal job of providing computers, tablets, free Wi-Fi, support, and education to those individuals. If you're not familiar with the term, it's digital inclusion. And the problem of digital divide is a big problem throughout this entire country. And St. Joe County Public Library is doing a lot to address it right here. The Community Education Center will provide not just more space, but state-of-the-art space that allows everyone, regardless of age, education level, income level, to feel welcome and to take advantage of all technology has to offer. It's more than Facebook and YouTube. It's learning about faraway lands and culture, learning digital art techniques, music composition, maybe it's learning a new language, school-aged children doing homework, or an older-aged adult taking an online college course, completing job applications and renewing driver's license. Driver's licenses online are tasks that most of us take for granted. Digital inclusion is just one example of the programming that can be expanded with the new Community and Education Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, name and address, sir.
Good evening. My name is Augie Frida, and I am currently serving as president of the St. Joseph County Public Library Board. And I'm honored to do so. In 1996, my family moved here from Pittsburgh. My children, hated everything about moving out of Pittsburgh and to South Bend until they visited the library. It became a wonderful place for them, to the point that now my youngest lives in Honolulu with her husband, who serves in the U.S. Navy. When they were here last, we brought the 3 grandkids to the library. They said, there is nothing like this in Hawaii. How often have you heard that said about South Bend, Indiana, when we look outside and we see the snow flying? You know, our library has been recognized over the years in a number of ways. We received the Layton Award from the Community Foundation. The Santa Cruz Art Museum has chosen our library for their Of, By, For All research project to engage community groups in deeper and more meaningful ways. The Drucker Institute's City of Lifelong Learning initiative is being piloted here in South Bend through the St. Joseph County Public Library. The Indiana Library Federation named our director, Deb Fuda, as Librarian of the Year in 2015, and our library just this year received the Indiana Library Federation Award for Programming. We've made significant investments in the branches. It's time to make that investment in the downtown branch. As was mentioned earlier, we began providing Wi-Fi to select locations before partnering with the city to help with the citywide Wi-Fi. And as an organizational resident, we sit in a key downtown location. But the library changes, and we need to recognize the opportunity to be a center for learning and exploring. Current and future patrons are looking for services and learning opportunities, while still being able to find the traditional materials that we find in a public library. It's a gathering place to, together, explore new ideas, history and heritage, education, and science. We talk a lot about infrastructure. Look at this addition to the library as a experiential and intellectual infrastructure that people and organizations can come and plug into just for the time that they need to plug into it, and then they can move on. They don't have to invest in that infrastructure we already have. This is an opportunity to make a statement within the city that lifelong learning matters. It aligns with the interests of the city, it enhances a key anchor point for downtown, and it positions our library to meet the needs of the current, next, and future generations. This is an incredibly unique opportunity in collaboration with the Community Foundation and with the City of South Bend. Know that this project and this library has the full and unwavering support and commitment from the library board, and we'd like to point out that we're this project requires no request for an increase in taxes. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Mr. President, members of the council. Jeff Frey, President and CEO of South Bend Regional Chamber. Thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening. We look at this in a couple different ways. One, on the talent attraction side. When Indiana studied communities all across the country and realized that we were growing slower than many of those communities, we were looking for that secret recipe in terms of how to bring talent here and grow our communities. Quality of place improvements really was that significant driver that we saw in so many of those communities. That was really the impetus of programs like Regional Cities, and you saw so many programs aimed at really growing quality of place improvements to really attract talent. I can't think of a better project than the one you have before you tonight in terms of the quality of place improvement that will ultimately help bring people here to our community and enhance other investments that are already being made in the downtown at places like Bibbert or Ivy at Berlin Flats or LaSalle Hotel, or often all those numerous improvements around there. So, so the talent attraction piece I think is really critical. The second piece I think is really critical is the workforce piece. Deb mentioned that there's nothing more important to the employers that I represent, that employ some 60,000 people in this area right now than workforce, and the library plays an important role in helping get those people ready for opportunities here in the local workforce. So we applaud that and think that that the Community Education Center gives them even further opportunity to enhance their marketability to our employers, and so we're excited about that. And then finally, just mentioning that James mentioned some economic impact. So a couple things in our mind. First, the initial economic impact of a construction project. When we plug a $38 million project into our economic model, it obviously generates a significant amount of impact to the community, and James shared those numbers with you. We also plug in the operation afterwards. So we had made the assumption of 8 employees might be added as part of this project. I think the range was 5 to 10, and we just had picked 8 for argument's sake. All said and done, we think this has a significant improvement, up to $80 million economic impact based on what our model says on taking those assumptions and plugging that in. So ultimately think, because of talent attraction, workforce development, and economic impact, that this project's a win-win for our community, and I would encourage your support of that this evening.
Thank you, sir. Next, name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Miriam Foles, 21579 Hollyberry Court, South Bend. I stand before you representing the African American Community Fund of the Community Foundation, which I am the chair. I am personally asking your support of this endeavor to approve the funding for our library. I can tell you that I personally consider the library a hub in our community where all walks of life can gather. It's interesting to see the slide where it shows where the supporters of the library come from all across the city as well as across the county, because I am a county resident. Personally, I am in the library probably a couple, 3 times a month, and for both meetings as well as to check out books. I am online checking out books, so I still use the library. I was introduced to the library as a young child when I moved to South Bend, and have continued my use of the library. I think it's very important for our children to have ample space. We all know that our library is kind of crowded. You go there any given time, not only throughout the week, but on the weekend, and it is very hard to find some space that is not where there is some quiet time. I still like the quiet time. I'm old-fashioned that way, but it's still hard to be able to be in there and not find a lot of people taking advantage of the space that we have. With all of the other economic development that we have going on in the downtown area, this is that anchor on the south side that we need, and I am asking your support in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad Buter, 1154 East Colfax Avenue, South Bend, and current board chair at the Community Foundation of St. Joseph County. Deb outlined very well the project and the services of the library, and citizens tonight have commented on the value it adds to the community. I think what I want to point out is that, Deb's team is a real asset. And, when you're dealing with an asset like that, you want to help it realize its full potential. And I firmly believe that this project will leverage her team and the asset they bring to our community to realize their full potential. I think this library project is just what downtown needs on the back end of smart streets. You're doing the parks and trails. It sort of fits into the puzzle of our community as it is evolving today. Your commitment will not only leverage Deb and her team, it will be leveraged. It will be leveraged with the $20 million from the county and the $10 million from the Community Foundation in a way that maximizes the return on your investment multifold, which I think is a city, you always want to maximize your investment and get the best return you can on your investment. You've done that continuously over the years that I've been here, and I think this project is an excellent example of doing that. But perhaps the most important reason I'm excited about the project, it demonstrates our collective commitment to meaningful change in the landscape downtown. And as I've been living in town now, so I've returned home, I grew up in Mishawaka, came back in 2001, been living in South Bend since then. I've seen downtown be transformed. I think this library will continue that process and move us forward in a very positive and constructive way. It'll be serving more people in more ways, and you've heard a lot of those ways today. But at the end of the day, when I talked to Rose and I got excited about the project, I outlined how whenever I travel a bit, whenever I visit communities, I always like to visit the library. Because when you go to the library, you learn a lot about the community. You see its people, you see its commitment to itself, you see its commitment to its citizens. And I think with a library like this, we will show to the rest of the world South Bend's commitment to itself and to its citizens. So I encourage you to vote in favor of this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yeah.
Mark Neal, 321 South Main Street. I don't know if I have anything new to add, but I think it's important that our county library system has been an anchor of this community for many, many years. And we have always focused on partnerships. I think the library has gone above and beyond work with the Community Foundation and so many other groups to find to create partnerships in this community for this expansion. And I think when we look at the quality of life in the community, the two last places that we look to for great public assets are libraries and parks. We've made a commitment in this community about our park system. I think doing that for our libraries can also add to the quality of life, the experiences that we can create, the knowledge that we can pass for all of our residents to make it an opportunity for all. And I think when you look at the study that was done back in 2017 by the library system, looking at other libraries in the country, but particularly libraries in the Midwest, to see what other communities of our size have done. I specifically looked to a place like Madison, Wisconsin, or Louisville, Kentucky, a little bit bigger, but nonetheless, they did things with their library and their expansion to make sure they did have resources for all parts of the community that everyone could take advantage of that truly were not available anywhere else. And I think it's just important as we look to continue in this knowledge-based world that we live in, that the library be an important part of that, and would ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to speak against 1870, please come to the podium. Seeing none. Turn it back to council. We'll have comments before we make a motion. Any comments on this side?
I have a few.
Really? Go ahead, Ms. Broden. 5 minutes.
What did you say?
5 minutes. No repeats.
That's fine. I'll listen through this. Someone said a no-brainer. I just think I'm very excited. One, our library, our leadership, long outstanding stewards. I said it earlier, it's worth repeating, always ahead of the curve, always bringing people together, always out there and pulling and pushing the rest of us along in terms of programming and the benefit for the community. I think there's been a lot, and everyone who came up tonight, I just commend you. This is the fundraising pitch, and you all nailed it. You all brought very important aspects to why this deserves not only this body's funding, but the others who will be contributing to this going forward. In that regard, this is, I think, the word transformational projects has, come repeatedly during my short tenure on this council. I think this is the highest and the purest hit on that mark. And Ms. Feud, you nailed it. You said any person, any age, always free, and at the heart of your mission is to improve lives. Purest, highest, dead on. I do think, I'd like to commend some folks too, because there is a partnership within all of this. Mr. Mueller, your office has done an outstanding job, the leadership of the Community Foundation, the leadership of the board. Nobody's paid. Nobody's paid to do this hard work and, put the pieces together, for the rest of us and for the rest of our benefit. So when you say it goes back 2 years, thank you for that 2-year-long conversation and your aspirational vision. And we get to step in and give the yes to this. I do also want to thank you. It is important when we are dreaming for what's best for the community to start where you did start, and that was with the extensive surveys, the extensive input. We're only as good, as our visions, necessarily need to bring along those people. And that's why this is really now, 2 years later, resonating with all of us. And I assume will also, I trust it will resonate with, as you go forward on the fundraising aspect of this. And I guess my last piece is, it's really exciting to sit here and to know that really essentially from this day forward, in committee I said the fundraising campaign, the Give on Tuesdays or Tuesday Giving campaign, it is really just exciting to sit here and to know that the building won't limit what we are capable of doing and delivering. So thank you for all your work on this. It really is worthy of our support, and going forward, the community support will be asked to contribute in the coming months.
I'll be brief. Library obviously brought some heavy hitters tonight, and thank you for that. One of the things that I would take a little exception with the free word. I threw that around. I had a high school economics teacher that said there's no such thing as a free lunch. But with how we're spreading this out, it's getting close to free. And I think when you can bring together this cross-section of the community, we've got the business community represented with Mr. Ray, thank you for being here, and Mr. Neal. And we've got social services represented. This is just a great idea for the community. Ms. Feud, thank you for sharing your personal story. That was fantastic to hear. As a Southsider, we are partial to the center branch, and it's a beautiful branch.
We saw the graphic.
Yeah, we saw the graphic. But I think this is going to be a great destination learning spot for families like mine. I've got 2 young children, and it'll be a great place to get excited about for our children to come to and learn and just have that space that feels like a destination, right? A destination learning spot. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing it in real life.
Yeah, thank you. Vice President Davis?
Yes, tonight is a wonderful time to come together to talk about the library. One of your keys, you said, a refuge for a busy society. And that stood out to me. Ms. Feeder, you sent me a letter, and I enjoyed reading it. And you talked about in your letter how you said we are accustomed to working with vulnerable populations in South Bend. We have a long history of working in our community to help individuals with employment issues. We worked with the Homeless Center for many years to teach technology. And he talked about how your staff is trained. And the key thing there, people like Mr. Burnside, he said, my security staff knows many of our regulars by name and engage in conversations with them along with our frontline staff. And I really appreciate it as we talk about yesterday's article, what are we doing in terms of, are we doing enough for our homeless populations? The library is the place that, no matter what background, like Ms. Meisner, you talked about it, it covers everybody. The wealthy, homeless, everybody can come together and at the library, and we are truly in need of extra space. I like the whole concept of having a building, a whole facility away from the downstairs, where you can have a whole type of program, not have to worry about rushing out at 9 o'clock or starting after 10 o'clock when the library starts and all that. That's what I really appreciate that. I like that whole area where you can come together inside and be in that enclosed environment for families. Seeing the child section there always brings back good memories where I spent many hours with my daughter, who's now off in college, and those are some fun days that she and I did. Daddy gone in the library, we went so many times there, had naps over there, and just enjoyed myself. And, yeah. And so, when I read through this, it's something, as we look at providing more services for people who are not only all over the community, but especially downtown, those who are in need at this time of year. The library is really key in that planning. So, Dr. Mueller, thank you in your planning. We agree on this one, and I really appreciate your the time a few weeks ago when we met, me and John, and we met with you and talked about it. I appreciate your emphasis on program planning from the cities, and I'm glad that we are emphasizing that, because that was a shared common thought that we brought up that day, and I see the library moving forward with that. So I'm looking forward to the time when this is opened. And I appreciate, one more last comment, when you all talked about the public bidding process that you will have in terms of contractors who will be working on doing the work. So I think that's also important to note as we look at making sure that those who are local get a chance to be a part of that process.
Mr. Ortiz. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be very brief, I believe.
Yeah, right.
I'll get started on that. First of all, I'd like to echo the words of, well-spoken words of Council Member Broden and Mr. Teska and Oliver, too. What strikes me is that when you're part of something, like we're part of this community, it's our hometown, you want to be proud of what you're a part of, and the library, fortunately, is one of the things that we can be very proud of. We were blessed to have the leadership and vision of Don Napoli for so many years.
Yeah.
He had to fight over and over with the county council primarily, and others in the community to implement that vision of the beautiful neighborhood branches that we have. You mentioned your daughter. I used to take my daughter to, when she was just the smallest thing, to the River Park branch. And every Saturday, it just became a routine. It was, I got to know everybody there, and it's just a vital part of what you do growing up. So whether or not one would support this, it's a foregone conclusion. I hope that this is going to pass, and I appreciate the vision of Ms. Puda now. And I'm glad that the city is so open to working with other entities across government lines and with the private sector. Any really successful product or program requires that. So I'm all for it.
No comments, huh? Okay. Save the best for last. No. I would like to say that this is indeed a very exciting time for me as a member of the council. Someone made the statement that this is another meaningful transformation of the culture of downtown South Bend. The library and the project and the outcomes that will come from the library is going to be life-changing and also lasting for years to come. I'd like to thank all of the partners, starting with the city, the community investment staff, James and your staff, community investment, and the library itself, for really moving beyond the imagine. A lot of times we said and we imagine what could be and what should be the outcomes of our dreams. But today, I'm quite sure with the action of this council, we will be moving from the imagine stage to the exciting stage. I really appreciate the way that the library went about, really bringing this project to the council, your willingness to meet with individual council members, the times that you came before the Community Investment Committee, addressing all the questions that we had at that time, and the way that the information was shared. And it's really a testament to the excellence and professionalism of the staff of the library. So I really commend you, the director, for the outstanding work that you've done as well. I would like to say that I love going to the library. I have a routine that I go to. There's 3 libraries that probably in the span of a month time, I probably would have visit these libraries at least twice a month. I tend to start with the Miami branch. Then I move from Miami down to LaSalle branch, and that's very important for me because I can remember years ago that branch had been identified as one that was going to close. And a group of individuals, community partners, came together, and we really worked with the library to ensure that would not be an end result. I was in the library just on last Tuesday, and I was just in amazed state to see the number of young people in that library way after 5:30. And the interaction and engagement was very exciting. So it speaks to that the libraries are more than just a place that you go in and check out a library book. So I'm very supportive. My vote will tell you how supportive I am, and I can't wait to see the end result. So again, congratulations to everyone, the partners, and the citizens that will benefit from this project as well.
Thank you. Finally, I remember there's 4 of us on this council here now present when Don Napoli came to us about a building that was kind of in the way of what you guys want to do now, and that was heated in contention, and I remember saying to Don, I can't wait to see this progress. And here we are. We're at that stage, which is good. I have to commend everybody involved with this. This is truly the partnership that we expect in this community. I remember James coming to me going, hey, what do you think about TIF dollars for this? And, we use it for infrastructure. We use it for businesses. And nothing could be any better than what we're doing here. We talk about return on investment. This isn't only a return on investment for the city. I mean, it is return on investment for our citizens, and not only for the city, but for the county. I've asked a question on economic impact because here's what I imagine. I imagine seeing this place with more people than is there now, and I drive by it every day coming home from work and seeing the cars just filled in the parking lot and the number of people standing outside, and it's great going north on Main Street there and actually seeing people coming and going and leaving. It's truly amazing. My heart goes out to libraries when I grew up in Imperial, Missouri, which is 20 miles south of downtown St. Louis, and we were in Jefferson County, just across the river from St. Louis County. Our closest county library was in Festus, Missouri, and yes, Gavin, there's a town named Festus, Missouri, and we would have to drive 20 miles to Festus, Missouri to go to the Jefferson County Library, and we did that every Saturday. And I'm old enough that the kids program was showing actual film movies of Laurel and Hardy and Abbott Costello. So I remember as a kid sitting quietly in those and then going out, getting books and coming home. So this is truly the investment that we need to do for our city and our county and all our citizens. So I concur with Ms. White on my vote. So with that,
Motion for adoption.
second, Ms. Fowler. Of the sub. Sorry.
Motion for adoption of the substitute.
Second, Ms. Fowler.
Councilmember Teschka,
Sorry, aye.
Vice President Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Gordy,
Aye.
Councilmember Furley,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember McBride,
Aye.
Councilmember Broden,
Aye.
President Scott,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to rise and join the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you for not opposing. You want to pass that down to Gavin? We'll move on to...
I think a lot of people.
Committee of the Whole is now in session. This is the portion of the council meeting where the full council meets as a committee. During each ordinance, members of the public will have an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition. Your comments will be limited to 5 minutes per bill. With that, would the city clerk please read 5718?
5718, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. First East-West Alley, lying west of Lawrence Street and north of Colby Street of Colby Boulevard, running west 158 feet in length and terminating at the existing north-south alley, all in South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Is there a committee report, please?
Public Works Property Vacation Committee met earlier and gave this a favorable recommendation to council.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Thank you. Mike Dan from Dan Charner and Associates, 1643 Commerce Drive here in South Bend, representing the petitioner. As we told council in the committee meeting, what we're asking to do is just to vacate a small portion of an east-west alley between Corby and Howard Street. It's 14-foot wide by 158-foot long. We have done residential development out in this particular neighborhood. The reason that we're asking for this particular one is to recombine some of the properties and do some more residential development for the neighborhood. And we would ask council to allow us to vacate that alley. Any questions that are glad to answer?
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay. And please state your name and address.
My name is Eric Benninger. My address is 439 Corby Boulevard, South Bend. I'm conditionally for this. I relocated from Granger to this area. It's a redevelopment area. I understand the practicality of needing to make this adjustment, but I also believe that should this be done, improvements to the road or alleyway that they're recommending all this traffic would be going down would require, in my opinion, 2 things. One, it needs to be improved. It's dirt. Number 2, there's a concrete retaining wall when you turn into it. And in addition to that, I don't know what the codes are, but to me, it should be yellowed out so that the residents living in those homes, which is where the access is, shouldn't be allowed to park immediately there because you can't see up or down Howard at that point. So there's a significant safety issue in that respect, especially when you drive a car like mine. When they plow, I can't get in or out of that. So pro, as long as we know that there are some improvements and some safety concerns that are addressed.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing none, the public portion is closed. We do have an opportunity for rebuttal.
I think the gentleman's talking about the north-south alley. We had talked about that in the committee meeting, and as part of any kind of residential development that's done, the city engineering department gets involved. And as I had mentioned, in my experience when we've done the residential development, that alley would have to be improved as well because it's going to be accessed with those residential homes. And so they'll take a look at that and make sure that all the safety distances are taken care of, and we will have to pave that alley.
Is that a written commitment, or is that a commitment being made by the...
It's a requirement by the engineering department. You're now allowed to do residential development in the city of South Bend and access alleys without actually paving those.
Okay, so just to be clear, the developer you represent will be paying for the improvement of that entire alley? Great, and then you'll continue to work with Public Works to make sure that there is appropriate parking marking?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Mr. Dance, can you get with this gentleman afterwards so you all can make sure that he understands clearly what you just shared, so everything's at peace when y'all go home tonight?
No problem.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, in terms of, do you have a question? I'm sorry.
Sure. That's okay.
So in terms of improvements for the alleyway, is that surface going to be cement? Is it going to be crushed? Or what's kind of planned? I mean, obviously, we are looking at something later on this evening with regards to
What the city
runoff
engineering
surfaces.
department requires is pavement.
Okay.
They require hard surface. They don't allow you to do gravel. So it's either going to be brick, which people usually don't do, or asphalt or cement. Those are the two that the city does. In the ordinance and in the design guidelines for the city, they actually have the specifications that they use for the alleys and how they're paved. In the border works and through the engineering department, they have to approve those improvements. And they actually require the developer to bond for those as well until they're put in place.
Seeing no other comments, is there a motion from council?
Make motion to send this to council favorably.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please read 5818?
5818, public hearing on an ordinance to vacate the following described property, north-south portion of Sampson Street, 40 inches in width, running south 140 feet from the south right-of-way of the East Randolph Street, ending at the north of the right-of-way of East-West Alley between Robinson and Hope Streets.
Is there a committee report, please?
This bill also was considered by the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee and did receive a favorable recommendation to council.
Thank you. Is there a presenter, please?
Good evening, Council. Aaron Perry, Executive Director of Venues, Parks and Arts, 301 South St. Louis. As discussed earlier, we're talking about Randolph Park here. This is in the 3rd Council District. After a bus tour a few months ago, we moved this to the top of the list as a park that needed some consideration. Randolph is located just south of Lincoln Way in a very densely populated neighborhood. Part of the MySB Parks and Trails initiative was to improve access to parks and particularly look at areas that are underserved by our park system. We'll be looking at perhaps new park properties along the way here, but we have to get creative in places like Randolph Mini Park. We'd like to graduate it to an adult park, and part of that involves vacating this little portion of Sampson Street so we can join the two halves of Randolph Park and realize this vision here with a playground, a small pavilion, and some basketball courts, as well as some sidewalks there. So we've worked with the Public Works Department and the Public Safety Department just to ensure that this would satisfy everybody's needs and concerns. Also reached out to the neighbors in the area. A couple of things that came up in committee. There is parking. I did confirm there is parking on Randolph Street, on-street parking, and the commercial business is a plastics company. Bammer Plastics. I don't know if I can pronounce it properly, but just so you know. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing none at this time, we'll move to the public portion.
Yeah. Just real quick. A suggestion, I'm sorry.
If we're going to connect those two across Randolph Street, would it make sense to have like flashing lights near the roundabouts and a speed hump on Randolph, raised like at Eddy Street for that crossing?
Yeah, so that would be a future phase if we're going to use you're talking about the retention pond to the north that I talked about earlier. If we're going to use that for any type of recreation field, I think an improved crossing makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. With that, we'll open up to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council. What's your pleasure?
I move that Bill 58-18 be sent to the full council with a favorable recommendation.
Second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
6018.
6018.
Would you please read 6018?
6816, public hearing on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, authorizing the issuance and sale of an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $4,800,000 of City of South Bend, Indiana Economic Development Tax Increment Revenue Bonds for the Community Education Center Project, designating bonds as limited life obligations of the city, and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto.
I make a motion to hear the
Go ahead.
substitute version.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. And Community Investment heard this today. We send it forward favorably. With that, is there a presenter, please?
Good evening again, Council. James Mueller, Executive Director of Community Investment with offices on the 14th floor of this building. This ordinance before you is making good on the MOU that you passed earlier tonight. We have our bond counsel, Randy Rampolla, to go through any of the specifics that you may have. The difference between what we heard on net proceeds of $4 million and the $4.8 million up to authorized here is partly for issuance costs, which are slightly over $100,000 between counsel and financial advisors and going to the market. And then the remainder would be for the potential for a debt reserve, which would enhance if the markets are requiring a credit enhancement, and we would get that back at the end. It can be used against your final payment of debt service. So that's why the number is different than the net proceeds we talked about, and we use still $4 million for the project.
Thank you.
I'm Randy Rampolo, attorney with Barnes & Thornburg of 100 North Michigan. I'm happy to answer any questions, but as indicated, the not-to-exceed amount is $4.8 million. That is a not-to-exceed amount. I think if bonds were to be issued today, the amount would be closer to $4.6 million, but because we're not issuing bonds for a period of time and we have an interest rate, possibility interest rates being a little bit higher, we've got a not-to-exceed amount of $4.8 million. The interest rate is not to exceed 7.5%. The bonds may be issued on a taxable basis or tax-exempt basis 3 years down the road, so we've got a little bit higher not-to-exceed. The not-to-exceed term is 20 years. The bonds would be payable solely from the tax increment revenues from a River West allocation area. The Redevelopment Commission did adopt a pledge resolution pledging the TIF that was described earlier to repay the debt. The ordinance also approves forms of documents, including a financing agreement with the public library that would provide for the bond proceeds when issued to be allocated to the library. Actually, the proceeds would be deposited into a trust indenture, which is the other document approved by the ordinance. Any requisitions to access the money then would be approved by the city at the time of the issuance of the bonds. The expectation is the project itself, as was discussed earlier, would be nearly complete when the bonds are issued, so that would likely be 1 or 2 disbursements at that time, but they would be approved by the city before the money would flow to the library. I think that's it. The EDC did meet this morning and approved the resolution, held a public hearing, there were no comments. I'm happy to answer any further questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none, we'll move to the public portion. Anyone from the public wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Seeing no one, the public portion is closed. Back to the council.
Make a motion to send 6018 to the full council.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Can I entertain a motion to continue 6118 to December 10th? December 10th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries. Can I entertain a motion to rise and resolve from the committee of the whole?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Wow. That's going to be recorded, Alan. Full council is now back in session. Miss Fowler, would you please read 5618?
5618. This bill was previously discussed, and this is council portion only. For third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, annexing and bringing within the city limits of South Bend, Indiana, and amending the zoning ordinance for property located in Clay Township, contiguous therewith, Councilmanic District Number 4, for 1733 State Road 23, South Bend, Indiana.
Thank you. Is there any questions from council or any update needed?
I'll second that motion.
All right. There's a first and a second. Ms. Fowler, roll call, please.
Councilmember Burley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Brew.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. Third reading for 5718.
5718, third reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described properties. First east-west alley lying west of Lawrence Street and north of Kobe Boulevard, running west 158 feet in length and terminating at an existing north-south alley, all in South Bend, Indiana.
Motion for passage?
Second. Ms. Fowler?
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Brody.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes. My order's a little out of whack because of 1518. but-
We understand. We follow.
The recording's great.
We figured it out.
All right, 5818, please.
5818, third reading on an ordinance to vacate the following described property, north-south portion of Sampson Street, 40 feet in width, running 140 feet from south right-of-way of East Randolph Street, ending at north right-of-way of east-west alley between Robinson and Polk Streets.
Motion for passage?
Second.
Ms. Fowler?
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Brody.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. 6018, please.
6018, third reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, authorizing an issuance and sale of an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $4,800,000 of the City of South Bend, Indiana Economic Development Tax Increment Revenue Bonds for the Community Education Center project, designating bonds as limited obligations of the city and authorizing and approving other actions in respect thereto.
Motion for passage of the substitute?
Second.
There you go.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McBride.
Aye.
Councilmember Brody.
Aye.
Councilmember Teschka.
Aye.
Vice President Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Vorty.
Aye.
Councilmember Furley.
Aye.
President Scott.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Thank you. We'll move to first readings. Ms. Fowler, would you please read 6218?
Well, 61 is good.
6218. First reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, for budget transfers for various departments within the City of South Bend, Indiana, for the year of 2018.
I make a motion that this bill be sent to Personnel and Finance Committee set for December 10th for second, for committee and public hearing meeting on that day.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 6318, please.
6318, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and city services operations in 2018 of $269,500 from the General Fund 101, $850,000 from Recreation Non-Reverting Fund 203, $50,000 from the Gift, Donation, and Bequest Fund 217, $37,000 from the Law Enforcement Continuing Education Fund 220, $608,836 from the Central Services Fund 222, $708,000 from the Liability Insurance Premium Reserve Fund 226, $254,000 from the Lowit 2016 Special Distribution Fund 257, $9,100 from the Human Rights Reserve Federal Grants Fund number 258, $30,500 from the Local Road and Bridge Grant Fund 265, $20,000 from the Take Home Vehicle Police Fund 278, $390,400 from the IT Innovation 311 Call Center Fund number 279,
$26 from the Economic Revenue Bond Fund 281, $21,735 from the Police Grant Fund 292, $2,000 from the Airport 2003 Debt Reserve Fund 315, $10,000 from the SBCDA 2003 Debt Service Fund 328, $1,050,000 from the COIT Fund number 404, $135,000 from the Park Non-Reserve Capital Fund 405, $116,202 from the Cumulative Capital Development Fund 406, $783,670 from the COIT Fund 408, $665,817 from the Equipment Vehicle Leasing Fund number 750, $64,121 from the South Bend Redevelopment Authority Fund number 752, and minus $22,974,385 from the Eddy Street Commons Capital Fund 759. Where's the rest of it?
That's it.
Do you need to breathe?
You did a wonderful job.
I'll make a motion to send this to the Personnel and Finance Committee for second reading and public hearing on December 10th. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Good, they can read it. 6418, Ms. Fowler.
6418, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, appropriating additional funds for certain departmental and enterprise operations funds for 2018 of $157,435 from the Consolidated Building Fund number 600, $190,000 from the Solid Waste Operations Fund 610, $12,000 from Waterworks Custom Deposit Fund number 224, $8,000 from the Waterworks Debt Service Fund 625, $10,000 from the Waterworks Bond Reserve Fund 626, and $25,000 from the Waterworks O&M Reserve Fund 629, $6,600 from the Sewage Works Operating Fund number 641, and $55,000 from the Sewage Works O&M Fund Reserve number 643.
Entertain a motion, send this to Public Work, or Personnel and Finance for 1210. So moved.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 6518.
6518, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Article 14 of the South Bend Municipal Code by deleting Sections 2-169, 2-71702, 2-170.3, 2-170.4, 2-17.5, and 2-170.6, which establishes various special funds associated with the Venues, Parks, and Arts Department.
Motion to send to Personnel and Finance for 1210.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. 6618, please.
6618, first reading on an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of South Bend, Indiana, amending Chapter 2, Article 12 of the South Bend Municipal Code regarding the administration and maintenance of the public cemeteries in the City of South Bend, Indiana, and amending Chapter 2, Article 14 of the South Bend Municipal Code to establish special funds for the permanent maintenance of city-owned cemeteries.
Motion to send to Personnel and Finance for 1210.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Fowler. You earned your money. So, is there any unfinished business? It's okay. Say no.
I don't know if it's unfinished business. Yeah, it is. In terms of, we had an update months ago, well, a situation where we, in terms of minority business, a professional was going to come in the month of November to do a follow-up.
Oh, yeah.
We went to that. It was held this past summer, and I was just wondering, I was going over my notes, did that occur? Did it come in, or what was the status on that? So I would like to
do an update at the next committee?
Update on that.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
A minority business, there was a professional, the lady attorney that came in from, she was from, consultant from, California.
We can have Christina come in and do an update next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, just hopefully, looking forward to the weather amnesty shelter opening up.
I agree.
And so, it's 26, so I'm just hoping that will take place soon.
Okay. Anything else unfinished?
We cannot unfinish them.
No problem.
Unfinished, okay, no.
All right, new business.
New business, if I could pass these out, but then also get it entered into the public record. The Poverty Experience Workshop will be held, and it's facilitated by the Indiana Youth Institute. It is an interactive simulation designed to provide participants a glimpse of what it is like on an extremely limited income. Targeted audiences are anyone who trains youth or serves youth, school, faculty, staff, faith groups, universities, volunteers, and other organizations that work with individuals, families, and communities experiencing poverty. It's fast and upcoming Thursday, December 13th, 9 to 12. It is free and lunch is served, and it will be held at Ivy Tech Community College.
RSVP.
RSVP, please.
Okay. Any other new business?
I would like to say on Tuesday, this November the 27th, the Personnel and Finance Committee, along with administration, will have a meeting from 5 to 7 p.m. talking about TIF and looking at how this particular economic development is used as a tool for the city of South Bend. This is really a outcome of our 2019 budget hearings, and there will be a series of discussions that will come hopefully in the year 2019. So it's just coming, it's going to be in the council conference office, yes.
Okay. All right, thank
Tomorrow.
you. Anything else?
5 to 7.
Seeing none, we'll move to the privilege of floor. Anyone wishing to speak to the Common Council can do so. Come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. Gavin Furlick will time you, and you cannot talk about anything that was on the agenda tonight. Mr. Brown.
My name is Samuel Brown, number 222 East Navarre Freedom Street, South Bend. I want to address the council tonight. I know you guys sitting on that council probably don't think about a lot of this, but what decisions you make for our community means a lot. Development of our city. And the reason I say that, my granddaughter Amy goes to Notre Dame, and she brought 3 individuals home for Thanksgiving, which I wasn't really too happy about this, but it turned out pretty well. One of the young ladies from Mexico, a 30-hour trip, 30 hours to get to South Bend, Notre Dame. Vietnam, young lady live in Vietnam, and another young lady live in China. And I was very proud that she come home with my granddaughter, so I put them all on the spot. I said, how did you get here? And everybody trained. I said, no, not that. What made you want to come here? Was Notre Dame your first choice? All three of them said no. They said no. Notre Dame wasn't the deciding factor. The whole geographic layout of the land was, the community. These kids are very bright, and they've done their homework where they wanted to live for 4 years. And I was very proud of them listening to this story. So the decisions you guys make are very important to our city because somebody's watching. I'm talking about young kids, 17, 18 years old, and they've done their homework. One young lady said New York City. Notre Dame wasn't the deciding factor. She said she was offering more money in other places. So keep up the good work. Keep making sound decisions to develop our city because somebody's watching. And I'm so proud I have Thanksgiving dinner with some young ladies.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Anyone else? Seeing none, make...
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Good night, everybody. You got them? My sign?
Some other fun.
No.
I'm leaving for the because I think the other part I have to ask, but I'm taking over and, yeah, but I want to know where it's transferred to. And then with the city cemetery, I want, well, that's that, I want to know.